Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game that we all know and love. If you're here for me on this channel, you will more than likely enjoy the game. And if you've played the game for a very long time, to a competitive aspect of some sort, you'll understand that this game is not cheap, and some cards out there reach an extraordinary amount of price. But what makes a card go from £50 to £60 to £3 in less than a year? Today we're going to look at the story of a card I've actually just packed. I've just been to my local shop, bought myself a couple of packs of Invasion of Vengeance, and packed a secret rare, first edition, original print, Dimensional Barrier. A card that was once £70, but why is it so cheap now, and why do other cards reach this price? So here it is, Dimensional Barrier at £70, well, 67. This was probably the hype of the game, and today we're going to be exploring the 4 aspects, in my opinion, of what takes a card from being a very expensive and in-demand card to being very cheap. So what causes it? Why can a card go from being so expensive to so cheap? The simple aspect, and the reason for most of these, is the desire. Here is a pie chart from the 2016 format, otherwise known as Zodiac format that we were in. As you can see, the top 3 decks at the time were Pendulums, Zodiacs, and ABCs. All 3 of these cards would have been shut down by Dimensional Barrier. Dimensional Barrier was such a phenomenal card when it came out, and impacted the meta so much. If a card is in the meta and in demand, the card will be expensive, and it's us as the consumers that evaluate these cards and make them desirable. All Konami do is reprint the cards and print them in the first place. This is just put into a sealed product, and us as the consumer open the product and dictate what cards are very expensive. Dimensional Barrier being the highest rarity of Konami's choice that we can pull from this box means that this card would have naturally been a little bit more valuable than a common. But us as the consumer have realised the power of this card and made it such an expensive card. But is the meta always the answer? Unfortunately not. Usually cards in the meta and reaching extraordinary prices tend to get reprints. A prime example of this would be the Megatins. Cards reprinted in the Megatins are usually naturally cheaper than cards reprinted in their original set. The Megatins are great for the game and make cards more desirable and cheaper and easier to get, but it does mean that that £60–70 Dimensional Barrier you've got will naturally go down. Usually this affects the market a little bit, but not to such an extreme and extraordinary price drop as the card we've chosen to look at today has been. So what else causes this? Well, unfortunately there's many other reasons. Power creep is one of them. Again, the game naturally evolves, and cards that were really good tend to get better versions of them. A prime example of this power creep in the game would be the card Mystical Space Typhoon, Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclone. They all destroy spell and traps, and Mystical Space Typhoon was once deemed ban-worthy in the game. Now sits at 3 in the format and hardly ever used. Well, that's simply because there's better versions. People opt to play Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclone. This is a prime example of power creep in the game, and unfortunately, power creep will be in the game as long as the game exists. That's just the format we're in and the game that we play. That's another 2 reasons why Yu-Gi-Oh cards don't always hold their value. And only affected by a few cards, Dimensional Barrier being one, was the change in Master Rule. And yes, we've been in Master Rule 4 for what, a year, 2 years now? But this had a big impact on older cards. Dimensional Barrier stopped any deck that played Xyzs, Synchros, Pendulums, or Fusions. But it didn't stop Links. Links came out, and people always opted to play Links. If you're playing an extra deck, you more than likely have a Link in there. And unfortunately, Dimensional Barrier just didn't do Links. And that goes for other cards. There's cards out there that say you cannot Synchro or you cannot Xyz with this card. You can link with it now, you can pendulum with it. And that really affected some cards in price, Dimensional Barrier being one of them. The first structure deck with links come out, and we already naturally started to see a diminish in cards like Dimensional Barrier. And a year or two down the line, the card is still great. It stops some phenomenal cards in this format. Thunder Dragon Colossus, Outer Entity Azathoth. But it's cheap because it's not desired and doesn't stop every deck. And that's the unfortunate game we're in. And Master Rule has affected quite a few cards in this way. And last but not least, the ever-presence of the card being banned in competitive format. Sometimes cards are just too overpowered for the game and have to be banned. And people don't want to lose money. Cards that get banned diminish in value. A card like Firewall Dragon that was once 40, 50, 60, 70 pound got banned, and you can probably get them for £4 or £5 now. And unfortunately, most cards get affected by this. But it's also the opposite way around. Cards can go up in value of the fear of them coming off the ban list. Take for instance Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. There's a chance that might come off the next ban list in April format. It's already started to naturally increase in price a little bit. But unfortunately, cards will never hold value unless it's a collector's item. And these are the reasons why. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have, please like, subscribe and comment for more Yu-Gi-Oh debates, facts and other reasons.